Hey YouTube, Qualia here, bringing you all my Cardfight Vanguard Dragontree Brandt Gate deck profile for post-Dragontree Invasion. This is the second of the 5 deck profiles I'll be doing for Dragontree of Ecliptic Decimation, Griffogilla. It's a deck that focuses on setting up the Overtrigger that is in your ride deck to hit for a pretty powerful attack play that your Vanguard Griffogilla is meant to do. I mixed it in with Brandt Gate this time around, the second deck profile for the 5 different nations I'll be covering for Dragontree. And with this one, you can focus on using your set orders to utilize the Shadow Army tokens along with your Dragontree Griffogilla, and using those Shadow Army tokens in a very similar manner to Orphis, but combined with your Dragontree of Ecliptic Decimation instead of Orphis. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and start off with the ride deck for our go-to starter. It is Griffocid. This card gets plus 2,000 for each Calamity card with a different card name in the soul. And also you can have a total of 5 cards in your ride deck made up of this card, 3 Calamity cards, and the Overtrigger. And at the beginning of your main phase, choose a Calamity card from your ride deck and put it into your soul. Put 3 Calamity cards from your soul that were in the ride deck face up. Search your hand or deck for up to 1 Dragontree of Ecliptic Decimation, Griffogilla. Ride it a stand, and if you searched your deck for it, shuffle your deck, and if you wrote a card, choose 2 of your rear guards and put a Dragontree marker on each of them. So this is the setup that you go for with the normal setup, with our 3 Calamity cards being 1 Beginning of the End, 1 Ill Omen Transmogrification, and 1 Coming of Demise. And since this is the Brandt Gate version of the deck, I'm running the Star Dragon of Deity Infinitude, Eldo Breath, just the additional double power you can get for all of your critical and your front row power as well. It just adds for immense pressure on top of your Griffogilla as well. I decided to go with these Calamity cards. I just found them to be a little more aesthetically pleasing for the Brandt Gate version of the deck. So with this taken care of, we'll now move on to the actual main deck for our main go-to boss monster. We're running 4 copies of Dragontree of Ecliptic Decimation, Griffogilla. During your turn, this unit gets plus 5,000 for each Dragontree marker on your rear guard. If you have 3 or more Dragontree markers, it gets critical plus 1. The Dragontree markers are set up with your Griffogilla, and also when this unit attacks a Vanguard, you choose a face-up Calamity card from your ride deck, remove it. If you did not remove a card, choose an Overtrigger from your ride deck, reveal it, and activate all the effects of the trigger, and then remove it and stand all your rear guards on Dragontree markers. Dragontree markers provide plus 5,000 to any unit that is on this circle that the Dragontree is on, and then also being able to have the additional restand power after your Overtrigger means that when you use your go-to Overtrigger, you'll hit for some pretty big numbers with those restood units thanks to your Eldo Breath. For the grade 2s, we don't really run any grade 3s in the deck, no need to. For the added backup, we're running 3 copies of Cardinal Draco Kuljamid. If your world is Dark Knight or Abyssal Dark Knight, it gets boosts and can intercept from the back row. And on the guard circle, if your world is Abyssal Dark Knight, this unit gets shield plus 10,000. Our go-to orders are the ones that at least provide some added backup power in the deck for Abyssal Dark Knight, and also for that additional shield power, adding more of a defensive option until you can set up the needed Calamity cards removed from the game to activate your Griffogilla. I also run 2 copies of Cardinal Draco Destigade with this card. If your world is Dark Knight, this unit gets plus 2,000. If it's Abyssal Dark Knight, it gets plus 5,000. And with also this card, instead of the plus 2, at the end of the battle this unit attacked, you can retire 3 Shadow Army tokens to stand this unit. So if you can set up a good number of Shadow Army tokens on the back row rear guards, you have a restand power on top of the restand that you can provide with your Griffogilla to your units on the field. For our go-to grade 1 for the Dragontree setup, I want to run 4 copies of Dragontree Wretch, Lloyd, Act 0 Youth. Now, I only have 3 copies. I do have 1 of the Keter Sanctuary one just as a placeholder, but you do want to run 4 copies of Lloyd. With this card, when placed on rear, counter plus 1, choose one of your rears without a Dragontree marker and put a Dragontree marker on it. So the more of this unit that you call out, the more you can set up your Dragontree markers on the field, along with the 2 additional copies from your Griffogilla. And on rear guard, once per turn, when a set order you played from hand is put into the order zone, counter plus 1, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose choose up to 1 unit card with a grade less than or equal to your Vanguard from among them, call it to rear guard in the same column as this unit, and shuffle your deck. It's more of a field setup grade 1 Dragontree marker, and it also uses up some counterblasts, but thankfully we can make those up quite easily with our Bobble Mine. I'm running 3 copies of this card. At the end of the battle, this unit boosted. If your order zone has a set order, put this unit into the soul and countercharge 1, making up for some soul blast power you may need as well for our next go-to card, and also being able to have that setup with your countercharging, being able to then reuse the counterblasts again for your Lloyd on the field. I also run 3 copies of Cardinal Principle Kagula. When this unit is placed on rear, if your world is Dark Knight, you may Soul Charge 1. If it's Abyssal Dark Knight, you may Soul Charge 2 instead. And on rear guard, if your world is Abyssal Dark Knight, you can Soul Blast 1, retire this unit, and call a Shadow Army token onto rear guard. So this can help to set up these Shadow Army tokens to use with cards like your Cardinal Draco, Destajade. These Shadow Army tokens are just powerhouses in and of themselves. So on top of them having the 15,000 power, they'll also have the additional power thanks to the Dragontree markers if they are on those circles. And for the rest of the grade 1s, 4 copies of the Sentinel, just the Violate Dragon. If you wanted to run Elementaria Sanctitude, you can always replace 1 copy of Violate Dragon for a copy of that Blitz order. You don't have to run, or you can't even run any of the other orders like the Persona Ride one, since it has to be a grade 3 unit for you to run in the deck. For our orders, I'm running 4 copies of Hallowing Moonlit Night. When put into the order zone, you draw a card and you play it with a Soul Blast of 1. So you'll make up that soul for either your Persona Rides with your Griffogilla or the Soul Charge power that you can get with cards like Kagula, just needing the Soul Blast 1 and retire of this unit for the Shadow Army token. But if your world's Abyssal Dark Knight, having the 2 in your order zone, you can Soul Charge 2 instead. And for the other order, I also run 3 copies of Eclipsed Moonlight. You play this card with a Counterblast of 1, and when it's put into your zone, you call Shadow Army token to rear guard. And also setting up, when you have 2 set orders, the Abyssal Dark Knight, which will be needed for a good majority of the other cards that we are running in the deck. For the trigger lineup, I'm running 7 criticals, so 4 copies of Star Aggression Dragon and 3 copies of Cardinal Draco Barbizon. It's more of a pressure that you can provide additionally when you resolve your Eldo Breath, because then any other power effects for this pressure will be added on as well, thanks to your units on the field, on top of the additional criticals you'll get afterwards. I also run 4 copies of the Ameliorate Connector for the additional +5 shield that this draw provides, and for the heal triggers, 2 copies of Cardinal Prima Neblim, and 1 copy of Transient Causality, and 1 copy of Lady Healer. The Transient Causality, especially helpful for when you are stuck on your Griffocid, and with this grade 0, at least if you have to play more of a defensive lineup against your opponent, you can use this grade 0 early game and have more of a shield to block against your opponent as well, because it won't really do much when you're on Dragontree, since you'll be a grade 10 Vanguard. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoy. Like I said, this is the Brandt Gate version for Griffogilla. That's 2 versions of the deck down. And I'll be working on the Dark States, Dragon Empire, and the Keter Sanctuary ones as well. So definitely look forward to them. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira Qualia out.